So the Department of Housing and Neighborhood Development has four primary goals. One is to keep people housed. Two is to build more housing. Three is to transform blighted properties across our city. And then four is to promote housing equity. That's more of a fair housing thing. My role as director is working with our team to make sure those four goals happen. My department has been operating for 40 plus years. We were established originally to carry out what is called federal entitlements related to housing and community development. And beginning in the early 70s, the cities were given monies based on their size, poverty rates, and other conditions to really deal with housing issues. It came out of a federal housing act that created these programs, and most cities establish a department or team to carry out the initiatives and to administer the funds pursuant to the federal standards. So some specific programs is we support a lot of agencies who are dealing with people who are dealing with housing instability or housing insecurity. So our role is to be a funder, to be a help to those organizations. Secondly, we have a direct role with developers of affordable housing across the city, and so we're trying to provide gap financing and whatever's needed to make a affordable housing development go in terms of just filling that gap. And usually it's a small piece of the puzzle. Typically our investment for every $1 we spend for affordable housing, we'll attract 15 additional private and public dollars to go along with it. And then also, we have a role with acquiring problem properties across the city and trying to put those properties back in to good use, back on the tax rolls, and back in the hands of developers or neighbors who can, do something with those problem properties. We want to transform those into productive use. And then finally, we are working for those who maybe have housing issues related to accessibility, related to, access to housing. We want to remove those barriers as well. So those are the four primary areas we're working. This is my second stint with the city. I worked in this department in the early 2000s as deputy director, and 2.5 years ago I came back to work for the city as director. So I've been in here around a little over 2 years, let's say, and enjoying every minute of it. Yeah, so it's a real tight team. We're 18 people strong. So there is a grants team that works with agencies and works with our compliance with our federal programs. There's a housing team that works with occupants in needing financing for repairs, and working with developers trying to renew properties, affordable housing, and there's a team that's working on blighted properties and trying to redevelop problem properties across the team. We also have a disability services office. And then we have a affordable housing fund where we're doing that gap financing for affordable housing projects. So we have 5 teams that are working in conjunction with one another to achieve our goals. Our department is a important department in our city, not just for good governance, but for quality of life. So, everyone deserves a good, safe place to live. But not only that, we need strong neighborhoods. And, if there's neighborhoods with problem properties, there's access to housing issues where people can't afford to live there, then, there's the potential for, dysfunction. And so our department helps mitigate some of those problems and advances the city's goals related to housing and community development. There are misconceptions about our work. There are stigmas associated with affordable housing. Housing is needed across the board in our city. It's needed for those who are 80% of the area median income or less. 50% of the area median income or less, people need housing there. But we also need housing for those who are making, over the median income. There's a need across the board, and so it's just not affecting just one segment of our population. What motivates me? That's a good question. So I wake up every morning thinking about increasing our housing stock. I know that is what ultimately will move the needle and end our housing crisis. We're in a supply and demand situation here. And what happened is we've grown by over 10,000 people in the last 5 years, which was extraordinary growth for Knoxville. In 40 years prior to that, we grew by 4,000 people. So we just don't grow that fast historically. We haven't done that. And so for the first time in a long time, we've had rapid growth. And at the same time, about 15 years ago, there was a crisis called the Great Recession, where mortgage companies folded and access to credit was limited. And so there was a long period where we didn't build a lot of housing. And so that kind of coincided with our growth. And it resulted in a housing crisis, not just in Knoxville, but across the city. And so what really motivates me is trying to get more and better projects off the ground, because I know that ultimately the inventory will help change the situation. So the work that we've done has really evolved over the past few years. We primarily historically have been about the federal programs, and there's been a little local money. We have done a lot in the way of housing rehab and a lot in the way of minor home repairs and things like that. What we've been introduced to over the last 4 or 5 years is this idea of gap financing for major developments. And so that has really taken over and added bandwidth to our department. And so now we have a lot more local monies to administer and to make sure that they are employed consistent with our Affordable Housing Fund ordinance. My favorite part about working for the city of Knoxville is just this awesome team that I get to work with. The 18 individuals at Housing and Neighborhood Development are passionate people that care a lot about this community. And also working with the mayor and her administration. It's a very good season in terms of leadership. This council, city council, has been very proactive and helpful. So it's just been a joy to work here in this season with these teams.